All right, today we're going to talk about one of the most powerful words in the entire English language, yes. We're going to get into the hidden science of why we say it, especially when every part of us is screaming to say no.
So have you ever noticed this? You're in a conversation and you can just kind of feel it coming.
You know, when it feels almost impossible to say no to certain people, they're about to ask you for something, and even though you want to say no, you can feel yourself starting to fold.
And then later, you're kicking yourself thinking, wait a minute, why on earth did I agree to that? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And believe it or not, there's a real science behind it. See, that feeling, that unwanted yes, it's not just you being a pushover or too polite. It's often the result of some really powerful psychological principles that are working on you, whether you or they even realize it.
And that brings us right into the world of persuasion. We're talking about the skill of getting people to not just agree with you, but to actually take action. And it's used absolutely everywhere, from huge ad campaigns to just figuring out where to go for dinner.
Okay, but we got to get something straight right from the get-go. This is about persuasion, not manipulation. There is a huge difference. As Abraham Lincoln said, you can't fool people forever. Real influence, the kind that lasts, is always built on trust.
So what's the secret sauce here? How does this stuff actually work so well on us? Well, it all comes down to your brain's secret shortcuts.
I mean, just think about your average day. You're getting hit with ads, emails, notifications. It's a constant flood of information. There's no way your brain can logically analyze every single piece. So to save energy, it creates these little mental shortcuts or triggers to make decisions on autopilot. And today we're going to dive into 4 of the big keys that unlock that yes. All right, first up, and I promise you have seen this one in action a million times, even if you didn't know what it was called. It's called scarcity. You know, that powerful, almost magnetic pull we have towards things we think we can't have. And this isn't some newfangled marketing trick. This is hardwired into our brains. It's an old survival instinct. Back in the day, if something was rare, it was valuable. And today, that same programming kicks in, creating this intense feeling of urgency, that fear of missing out, or FOMO. Limited things just feel more valuable to us. And oh boy, do companies know how to use this. You see it everywhere. Limited edition drops. That little warning on Amazon that says only 2 left in stock. A flash sale that's valid till tonight. Heck, even fancy restaurants that serve tiny portions are tapping into scarcity. It makes the experience feel more exclusive and valuable. Okay, so that's scarcity. Super powerful, right? Key number 2 is all about our social programming. Reciprocity. This is basically the invisible rule that holds society together. It's that deep-seated feeling that if someone does something for you, you owe them. You've got to return the favor, right? It's a psychological itch we have to scratch to keep things fair. And this story is a perfect, almost unbelievable example of this in action. For years, Hare Krishna members would hang out at airports and offer people a gift, usually a flower. They'd insist you take it. Now, once you had that flower in your hand, a gift you didn't even ask for, you felt this incredible pressure to give something back. And more often than not, that ended with you making a donation. That's reciprocity. All right, moving on from getting a gift to, well, giving something up. Our third key is a really clever negotiation tactic. It's called concession. You might also hear it called the rejection then retreat strategy. And that name tells you everything you need to know. The author of Influence tells this perfect story about it. He's at an airport, and a young boy comes up and asks him to buy a pretty expensive ticket to some event. The author says no, obviously. Then the boy retreats and says, okay, well, if you won't buy a ticket, would you buy one of my chocolate bars for $1? And what happens? He buys the chocolate. Why? Because after rejecting the big request, the small one seemed totally reasonable. The boy made a concession, so the author felt like he should too. Okay, let's get to our 4th and final key for today. This one is all about what happens after we've made a choice. Commitment and consistency. This taps into our deep need to see ourselves as consistent, reliable people. Think about it. Once you've said yes to something, even something small, you feel this internal pressure to stick with it, right? To act in a way that matches that initial decision. We just hate to contradict ourselves. And some of the real-world examples of this are just genius. Take the Cancer Awareness Badge experiment. Researchers found that if they could get people to agree to wear a tiny pin for cancer awareness, those same people were way more likely to donate money later. That small commitment changed how they saw themselves. And toy companies, they pull a brilliant move.
They'll advertise a super popular toy like crazy before Christmas, make sure it sells out, and then magically restock the shelves in January. All those parents who promised their kids the toy feel committed, so they have to go back and buy it then. It's wild.
So, scarcity, reciprocity, concession, consistency. These are seriously powerful tools, right? Which brings us right back around to the most important point of all.
And this is the absolute key takeaway. Knowing this stuff isn't about learning how to manipulate people. It's about becoming a better, more ethical communicator. When used correctly, these principles create win-win situations that build trust and make everyone feel good about the outcome. So as we finish up here, I want to leave you with a question. Think about a time you said yes when you maybe shouldn't have. Now that you know these 4 keys, which one do you think might have been at play? Was it scarcity, reciprocity, concession, or consistency? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining this explainer.